Welcome to another edition of exciting news stories from the power sector. This is Power Wheel, a production of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. I am Chinwenwa Anyao. Let's have a view of some stories that unfolded in the power sector in the Power News segment. Happy viewing. The total value of donor-funded projects for the transmission section of the power sector has hit $1.57 billion, the Transmission Company of Nigeria says.
The Managing Director of TCN, Usman Guru Mohammed, made this disclosure when he has received a delegation from the Finland Embassy in his office at the TCN corporate headquarters in Abuja recently.
All the donor-funded project is under him, is coordinating the donor-funded project, which is now $1.57 billion. We are hoping that Islamic Development Bank will still come on board, and that will raise it to $1.8 billion.
The delegation, led by the ambassador, Somela Shohuri, lauded the MD of TCN for his efforts in ensuring improved relations between Nigeria and her country, especially when they marked their Independence Day celebration.
I very much appreciate, and my delegation very much appreciates this meeting, an opportunity to discuss with you and do our presentation. I also want to thank you again for the previous meeting we had, and also, of course, for being present at the National Day, Independence Day reception, which was a very important occasion for us. So it was, your presence there was very much appreciated. Last time we spoke a lot about also more generally about Finland-Nigeria relations, so I will not go into those. I will just say that they have been very active, especially last year, over the last few years, but especially last year, the relations have been very busy. I will give you afterwards an update of all the things that, in writing, in written format, an update that I prepared for you on all the things that...
The ambassador who came with a company called Provendia emphasized that power is a central issue to Nigeria and for the development of the country, adding that whatever Finland and Finnish country could do to promote power generation will be done for development of Nigeria's economy.
We all know that power is a central issue in Nigeria and to the whole development of the country. And I think anything that we can do, and Finland and Finnish companies could do in that area to promote the power generation and therefore the whole development and economic activity in the country, it is worth looking at.
Chairman of Finland's Provendia, Markus Lunka, said a discussion on the public sector investment financing facility of Finland with TCN started in January 2017. He said the firm has proposed the digitization of TCN network assets, the establishment of automated assets management and inspection system using PIF, which covers 35% as grant and 65% as investment credits.
As we understand, the power sector is one of the key sectors in your national economic recovery and growth plan, and good working transmission network is essential part of that development. Through the instrument, the development cooperation funds are used to support the investment projects, purchase price and the interest, which means that the expenses incurred of the project are markedly reduced.
He said the project, which will cost €5.7 million, will allow TCN to locate proper resources for monitoring and maintaining the transmission system effectively. The TCN boss, after the presentation, said TCN had signed an MOU with International Oil Company, AGIP, and the Delta State government on connecting a community in the state, and part of the responsibility of the contracting firm is to provide geographic information system similar to what the Finland company has proposed.
We enter into the memorandum of understanding actually for certain things that AGIP joint venture need to do, and also certain things that we also need to do, I mean TCN. And Delta State government also, there are certain things they need to do in that memorandum of understanding. And part of that is that they are going to provide geographical information system, which have some component of the work similar to what you have presented here. So, but what we are going to review is that we are going to look at this and look at what Ajib is going to present, and we'll come back to you. We will come back to it. Certainly, I don't think what Ajib is providing is exactly what you are providing. So we'll look at it and we'll come back to you.
He also said his team will look at the cost of the project as TCN operates in a market where liquidity has been a challenge, but that new things to strengthen the market are coming up, like the eligible customer declaration.
The Transmission Company of Nigeria is operating in a market where the liquidity is a problem, and that is why it is very tough. But also new things are coming up, and one of the new things that is coming up is the eligible customer declaration. This has generated a lot of interest, and in fact we have so many customers that have lined up to sign into this. So as we execute this kind of eligible customer, we believe that TCN revenue will significantly improve, and we'll be able to do so many things ourselves. But even as it is now, because of the way we have reduced costs, we have also instituted some level of prudence in the management of TCN. We have significant savings, and TCN is doing well in terms of finance in the last 1 year.
In an effort to help electricity users understand the dynamics of the workings of the power system, the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has explained the models of power generation and the role it plays in facilitating the supply of electricity to households and industries.
In a presentation at the recent training of the staff of TCN, in collaboration with the National Power Training Institute of Nigeria, the name one explained there are 4 power sector value chains.
We need to understand that electricity have 4 basic steps in terms of its value chain. The generation, transmission, as well as distribution, and finally the consumption where the loads are conducted. Now for the generation produce the electrical energy, which is represented with a generator and a transformer. And then you need transmission, where you have the transmission lines that transport the energy to various locations. Then you have transformers in different substations where you can either step up or down the voltages as required. And then you have the distribution where you have different lines. You connect your customers or consumers with respect to the voltage they require in their consumption.
For the generation aspect, the presenter emphasized that electricity could be generated through the conventional system, such as hydro and gas, or using the renewable energy approach. He said the conventional approach provides the bulk energy through hydro, thermal, that is gas-fired, or nuclear, while the renewable uses solar, wind, biomass, geothermal, and small hydro.
Basic modes of generation generally in Nigeria are hydro and thermal systems. In hydro, as you can see in this animation, you have water that gets into a pipe called the penstock at a very high pressure, which heats some turbine blades here called the hydro turbine. These blades are heated by the highly pressured water. It turns the turbine blades, which is interconnected with a shaft to a particular generator. And this generator finally produces the electrical energy as a result of its interconnection with the turbine.
He noted that the renewable energy component is mostly used to supplement the conventional system. They include wind turbines for rotating turbines, solar photovoltaic panels that convert sunlight into electrical energy for consumption. He said the small hydro farm rotates small turbine to produce electrical energy.
And these are some of the ways we can get renewable energy, and it means that in this system, the source of the energy will not run out, and therefore the name renewable energy.
Also explaining the mode of transmitting generated electricity, he said the transportation of the generated power to the different distances is termed as transmission. He noted that transmission interfaces between the generation and the distribution section for better stability, reliability, and management.
Therefore, the transmission system is at the middle, receiving from generation and equally given to distribution, so the interface between the two to provide a very good stability and management system. In this system, you can see we generate electrical power with a generator at, let's say, 16 kV, sometimes 11 kV, depending on the system, and then you take it up into a generator for step up. This generator takes up the power from 16 kV to 330. This 330, which is very high, is required because of the lengthy distances. You now use transmission lines to transport these 330 kV lines, and then you need another transformer to step it down for the utilization of some levels, and this one steps it down to 132 kV, which is equally a high voltage, and then you need another substation to take it down to some medium voltage levels of 33 kV and 11 kV, and some of the customers require it either at 33 kV or 11 kV, depending on the requirement of the customer. And then finally, you get another substation where you have low voltage, either 415 volt three-phase or 240 volt single-phase. These are mostly for small residential and commercial customers.
The presenter, while explaining a transmission substation, said it serves the purpose of helping to better control and manage the generated power to ensure it gets to the final consumers through the distribution section.
This is a transmission substation that gives you the chance of providing better control and protection of this kind of system.
For distribution system, he said it could be radial or ring system where different sources are interconnected. However, he said the radial system is common in Nigeria except for Lagos and Abuja, where there are ring systems, providing multiple transmission vehicles for electricity supply.
The electricity distribution, which is the tail end of the value chain generally. If you generate, you transport through the transmission lines, and then you have receiving substations where you can manipulate and transform the voltage levels to the requirement. So at the distribution level, you have substations either underground or overhead distribution line system. You can have some smaller transformers that provide supply to different customers.
Effectively operate and maintain the newly installed capacitor banks in Lagos, Abuja, and Kefi for boosting voltage levels in the transmission system. The Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, has trained its field staff on how the innovative project equipment operates.
The General Manager, Project Coordination for all donor-funded projects of TCN, Engineer Ganiu Aliu, said the trainees selected were those engaged in field works. He said the grid system has seen voltage fluctuations in the recent past, which resulted in system failures, hence the intervention of the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, JICA, in installing the capacitor banks and training TCN staff to improve voltage level and bulk energy delivery in Lagos and Abuja environs.
We have come to our aid in Nigeria. This pilot project is a grant from Japanese government. And the aim, we collected some data from our system planning, and they have visited some places in this country, and they now come out with a study to identify those locations that will need capacitor banks. Of course, there are some areas that we need. You know that in our system we have many reactors to suppress the voltage when the voltage goes high. Of course, we still have voltage dip, and in that case, those of us who have come from maybe Gombe or Meduguri or far north, you will have been experiencing low voltage at your end. So in this case, we need to boost the voltage. This service, we need capacitor bank. So this project is meant to assist Transmission Company of Nigeria in producing quality voltage.
While welcoming the trainees on behalf of the TCN Managing Director, Usman Gur Mohammed, he said the training was first carried out in Kefi substation before the second part at their post-sub-region on how the capacitor banks operate. He charged them to be focused in acquiring the knowledge as they are the future of the organization that is being repositioned by the current management for self-sustenance.
In the nearest future, we, Transmission Company of Nigeria, will operate like a private company. and we'll be able to fund our project by ourselves, and we'll be able to pay our salary. We don't need any budget from the government, so that we can stand alone and we can compete favorably with other transmission companies worldwide.
Among the trainees who spoke on their experiences during the 5-day training session is Ajibo Chioma Stella from Ogwaji substation in Enugu region. She said the transmission system has been suffering low voltage issues, but with the installation of capacitor banks, it is a means of improving the system and should be replicated widely.
There's a lot of area. Abuja is okay. Then Benue side, you can find out that Benue and Oshobo, Lagos, I think I will suggest that they'll install capacitor bank there.
A staff of TCN, Prince James from Apple Transmission Substation on the Abuja sub-region, said the 5-day training was a good experience as the installed capacitor banks was an improvement in the grid system. He said a 60 MDR capacitor bank was installed in Apple substation and another 25 MDR was installed in Kefi substation.
It's going to be very useful in terms of improving the power factor at those stations, reducing transmission losses suffered by on the lines and then on the transformer, as well as improving the quality of power that gets to the consumers overall, in the sense that once voltage improves at these substations, consumers can be sure of getting correct power factor delivered to their appliances in their houses.
On the JICA project handling, he said the execution, implementation and the training for the installed capacitor banks project was done in a coordinated manner by the expatriates.
The standard for installations were very excellent, and the quality of the products too, both the ones manufactured directly from Nessin and from their contractors, I think they are very good. And in the past, I think their products have been in the system for over 30 years now, and they've been doing very well.
The General Manager, Project, Engineer Suleiman Abdulaziz, tasked the trainees to pass the knowledge they have acquired to their colleagues at the various transmission sub-regions.
You have to have in mind that you can be called anytime if there is any issue with capacitor bank, because now as far as management is concerned, you are a specialist. So any issue, whether it is in your own region or not in your own region, you will be called often to work on them if there need be other installation or repairs or whatever, and try and pass the knowledge to your own colleagues.
Stay put as we bring to you an interview with Mr. Kunle Kola Olubiyo, the President, Consumers Protection Network, on the potential gains of the eligible customer regulation and the newly launched Meter Assets Providers MAP regulations to electricity users in Nigeria.
What we have are kind of bulk users of electricity, and these categories include the industrial and those you can call the large-scale industries, medium and small-scale industries, as the case may be. These are the bulk users of electricity, who are prime customers to the existing 11 distribution companies in Nigeria. Between 2013 to date, there are some issues or challenges that have reared their head that were not envisaged in the framing of the legal and institutional framework for the power sector. So these challenges include non-availability of power to the prime customers or the bulk users of electricity. And if you look at the role of those people who have just extrapolated a while ago, the industries, the bulk users of electricity, they have multiplier effects. And if we don't get it right with them, that is not to say that those in the domestic R1 and R2 are not important. But once we get it right with the bulk users of electricity, we're talking about job creation, we're talking about wealth creation, we're talking about empowerment, we're talking about socio-economic stability, because the more we are able to industrialize, the better for us, not as a developing country, clime, but our ability to get to become, first 2020. One of the challenges that all the end users of electricity, irrespective of the classes, is that the issue of metering. Some believe that estimated billing was over-bloated. With the challenges being faced by the DISCOs, it has, one, put so much pressure on them, and they seemingly, to us, look as if they are helpless, because the metering rollout or the metering gap has remained huge and unattended to. The federal government now say, okay, the component of metering, one, in some cases, consumer claim that some meters have been adjusted or the integrity of the meters have been tampered with. So now all this is what the meter asset provider is intending to address. And that is why the federal government said, look, for anybody to invest in this scheme, they must not have any direct or indirect association with the distribution companies. What that intends to do is that, so that all the DISCOs will be insulated from the issues that, an average man on the street will say, this meter, we are not sure what is happening. So they will just be involved in the issue, the business of distribution of power. By the time we give it to a separate set of people who will now have a tripartite agreement, the investors, manufacturers or importers of meter will bring in the meter, the DISCOs will collect the money. But for every billing, whoever is able to access metering under this scheme, they will have the a recovery component factor into their bills. But whoever is not within that, this is not going to be generalized like what will have the fixed charges. But from the side of the electricity consumer in Nigeria, we have the opinion that businesses are managed or run in equity. Consumers are not stakeholders in this business. So any investment, whether in the purchase by community, if it followed due process, the purchase of transformer, line materials, and what have you, it must be, translated into energy credit. There are places that there are, potentials for revenue. The consumers have had costs to resort to, buying transformer and investment, putting investment that's not supposed to be their business. So when this burden and some other that may be possible is taken away from the DISCOs, it will now allow the DISCOs to concentrate on technical investment, technical component of this, which is the infrastructure component of the distribution subsector in the Nigerian electricity supply industry. And to us, it's not yet Uhuru, but we are sure that it's just a journey that has just begun and is an evolving process. So the DISCOs, we acquire the experience based on practical reality, just like consumers. So with time, we believe that water will find this level, and there's hope at the end of, there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Stay put as we bring to you more news in the Power Flash segment. Another informative edition of Power Wheel. To keep a date with us next week, please don't forget to reach us through these platforms. You can also join in by subscribing to our YouTube channel. I am Chinwenwa Anyao. Bye for now.